going, and we're going to look at the decisive game of the round. So we're going to take a look at the game played between Ian Nepomniachtchi and Kiril Alekseenko. This game is played right now in the 9th round of the FIDE Candidates, or the 10th round of the FIDE Candidates chess tournament, and a very important game for their standings. Ian playing with the white pieces against his fellow countryman Kiril with the white piece, a chance to win and really put his stamp on the tournament and potentially run away with the event. All right, so pawn to c4 is played on move 1. Knight to f6, pawn to g3 played by Ian. E6, again we have sort of an English opening, can turn into some sort of Catalan as well if white ever goes bishop g2 and d4, but very complicated. So bishop g2, d5 played here. Knight to f3, pawn takes pawn, queen to a4 check played. Knight to d7, queen takes pawn, and now a6 played by Kiril Alekseenko. Idea being very similar to Catalan systems. Black wants to go b5, maybe c5 as well, and put the bishop on this long diagonal, opposing this white bishop from g2, which is aiming towards the rook on a8 here. So queen c2 is played here by Ian. Now this of course very logical move, as you guys will recall from the game that I covered yesterday between I think PTS shock for the raid with 649. Thank you so much. As those of you who are watching yesterday, there's another system, and I'm going to go back to the start, which is you can play the Catalan opening. So it's like it goes like this: g3, bishop e7, bishop g2, castles, takes queens to a6, and it's a very similar position. The difference being the pawn is on d4 versus d2 here, and if white takes, you go b5, bishop b7. Same idea as knight e7, c5. More importantly, bishops are opposing. So now if we get back to this game, after queen c2, it's a similar thing. Now b5 does not attack the queen, and additionally if you play b5, you actually just lose on the spot here because white can go knight to d4, and no matter where you move your rook here, it's gonna get forked. If you go rook a7, I have knight c6, trapping the, actually forks the queen and the rook, but it traps the queen as well. So this would be terrible. Rook b8, no different, just knight c6 again. So yeah, so it's very it's a very tricky move here. Queen c2 basically stopping black from playing b5 or b6 for that matter, and putting the bishop opposite the white bishop on g2. So c5 is played, knight to c3 here, bishop to e7, castles, and now Ian plays d4. And you'll notice the big issue for black here is basically this development, because black can never push this pawn due to opening up this diagonal. Black is always going to have some issues with getting this bishop and this rook developed. So takes, knight takes pawn, queen c7, rook d1, pretty standard. Rook d8, bishop to e3. I must say already something has gone very wrong for black here. This looks really bad. I'm trying to figure out, does this mean that Kiril just confused his opening, or what went wrong? Because already after rook d1, rook d8, bishop e3, this looks like a tremendous position for Ian. Black is struggling in development here. You've got the open diagonal. Again, this bishop is good. You're also going to be contesting both files with both rooks, and this just looks crushing. So knight b6 played, rook a c1, e5, knight to f5, correct move, takes, and now again you start to see the power of the ops. Look at these ops. They're both aiming down these diagonals. Additionally, white's rooks are both on open files as well, and it just looks really good. So it just looks really bad for black. Knight c4, bishop g5, trade, knight takes d1, and now black has problems with the pin. Black has problems with this diagonal too, not to mention maybe there's also a third problem, which is maybe, let me just give an example where white can even go here, and now you can't block, so you lose your bishop, and if you push, there's check and check. It's all very I mean, there are a million different things that are wrong with your position here after knight takes d1. Rook d8, takes. Oh, and this happens actually. He gets bishop e4. He gets the third idea that I was talking about with bishop e4, and now black's in really bad shape. You'd love to push this pawn to close the diagonal, but then you lose your bishop. So you can't push this one because of this one. And then additionally, I mean, I guess you can play h6, although queen a5 is played. If you go h6, I assume there's some trick here, like check, king f8, and knight e3. And if black takes, very important, you do not take this free queen, because after rook d1 your king is checkmated here. But you can throw in the check first, king here, and then after king e7 you take the queen with a check on the king, and black doesn't have time to go rook to d1 here. So So basically in this position, after 93, or sorry, not 93, after bishop e4, queen a5 is played here. If black tries 93, it doesn't work either, because you can take, it's the same thing, check, check, and then take with check on c7, same problem. It's just a very bad position. So queen a5 is played, knight to c3 by Jan. I don't even know if this is absolutely the best move, but you could also take first. Really doesn't matter though, because black cannot do anything about this diagonal. So king f8, knight d5 played by Jan, very nice move. B5, queen h7, and already this is kind of just lost, but yeah, so queen h7 is played here, rook takes knight, bishop takes. Again, white is threatening checkmate with queen h8 because the king cannot come up here. So takes, queen d2 played. Sort of a last gasp effort by Kiril Alekseenko to create some counterplay here. Queen attacks both the bishop, it attacks the rook as well. So rook takes bishop, or rook takes knight, sorry. Takes, not queen d1, by the way. It almost looks like black would be doing well, but after king g2, queen takes d5 check, white can go rook to e4 here, and after you play g6 to cut the queen defense of the rook on this diagonal, white just goes f3, closes diagonal, pawn supports the rook, and now white is free to just bring the queen back at some point and win the game. So instead, b takes c4 is played. Jan plays pawn to e4, queen takes bishop, queen to h8, king e7, queen to c8. Again, very fine, very nice technical play by Jan. Again, I suspect maybe bishop takes c4 is playable, but going around the back here with queen c8, threatening this idea of queen c7. You hit all three pawns. You have queen c7 with the right triangle, and this is just completely lost. So queen b6 played by Alekseenko, queen takes c4, hits both pawns. Black actually there's no way to guard this pawn, and very importantly, after queen c4, black plays like black goes queen b5 in the game. First of all, you can take on f7 and this is winning, but secondly, the important thing is that if check king b2, your queen also holds this pawn from this capture on e4, so the queen is really multifunctional on c4. So queen b5, queen c7, queen d7, queen c5, and here Alekseenko resigns for a couple of reasons. First of all, he resigns because if he goes king to e8, white has bishop to c6, the queen guards the bishop, and you lose your queen on d7. If you go king to d8, again, I think white can play queen f8 check. If queen to e8, you go queen d6 check, hit the king, queen d7, queen takes a6, and now white is up two clean pawns, and this pawn is just going to go all the way down the board immediately. And if you play king c7 here, I think white can just very calmly take the pawns. Same thing where white is up two pawns and just completely winning. So basically here after queen c5, Kiril Alekseenko resigns, and Ian Nepomniachtchi wins a very important game, and he takes a very commanding lead, I would say. I think he is now ahead by one clear point with 4 rounds to go, and he's looking like the favorite to win the tournament, I would say. So not much to say about this game overall. I would just say that it was a very perplexing opening. I mean, I've seen this position a million times, but as I recall, when I've looked at this opening in the past for either side, I feel like black's supposed to go rook b8. It's like rook b8 or rook a7, one of these two moves. I'm not sure which one, but you're supposed to go to one of these two squares for sure, because what happens in this game just after d4, I think you're already in really bad shape. I'm not even sure what you're supposed to do here. And after takes knight d4 rook d1, I think it's already, it's hard to say this because the game goes on, but I would say for humans at least, to me this position already feels like it's completely lost from a human standpoint, because it's just too hard to play for black. So yeah, very impressive game for Jan. Very nice win for Kiril. Very puzzling game. Certainly it's surprising, but nonetheless, you know, that's how it goes. So yeah, so Jan wins this game, moves out in front of the pack by a clear point now, and